By the early 19th century, much of New York State had been fully explored and settled. It was no longer the wild land romanticized in novels about Native Americans and frontiersmen. But New York still held one last frontier, just waiting to be explored. Its vast network of caves. Now, we will visit one of the very first New York caves to be explored. Discovered almost 2 centuries ago. They are the sources of ancient myths and legends, the hideouts of outlaws and smugglers, places of awe and wonder for explorers and curiosity seekers. They were created through a perfect combination of raw materials, natural forces, and time. They are as beautiful as they are foreboding. They are caves. Now, through careful research and investigation, we will seek to reveal their forgotten stories and descend deep underground to experience their beauty and mystery firsthand. Follow along as we go in search of caves and legends. We arrive at the James Gage Karst Nature Preserve and make our way back to the cave entrance. We gear up and prepare to enter the cave. We descend about 75 feet and are immediately greeted by some interesting fossils.
So right here, the segmentations, that's the end of a crinoid stem. A crinoid is an organism that takes carbon dioxide out of the air to create its calcium carbonate rigid body, and when they die, they deposit on the sea floors, and they just keep building up and create limestone over time.
This is Ball's Cave. It's on the Jim Gage Karst Preserve, owned by the National Geological Society in Schoharie County, New York.
Reaching the bottom, we crawl through a narrow slot and soon find ourselves up to our neck in cold, dark water. This cave was discovered in 1831 by Peter Ball. Ball is notable for being the quartermaster of the 15th New York Regiment during the Revolutionary War. Although the cave was found on his land, he would have been an old man in 1831. So the exploration was left to John Gebhard and 2 other explorers. They paddled this flooded passage in a specially made boat called a Bonnie boat. Without the luxury of such a boat, we carefully make our way deeper into the cave, with a combination of walking and swimming. As I round a bend, I am surprised to see an amazing sight. A perfectly straight, arched tunnel, punctuated with dozens of semicircular tufa dams. Limestone dissolved in the gently flowing water is deposited over thousands of years to create these dams. Teal green water pools behind each dam and overflows in miniature cascades into the next, in evenly spaced intervals. These water features must have wowed the first explorers of Ball's Cave. A period map of the cave shows the tufa dams, as well as the explorers in their bonnie boat. We carefully push deeper into the cave, careful not to step on the rim of the delicate dams. As we reach the last and shallowest pool, we make a right and arrive in a large room, known as the Square Room. This was the end of the cave for the 19th century explorers.
This is the lost passage.
But not for us.
Holy wow!
Like this much airspace, and it's tapered like this. That's cool to me, Nick.
I squeeze into a narrow tube with just enough room to keep my nose above the water. As my neck, ears, and mouth submerge into the cold water, I feel my body release a shot of adrenaline. As I push myself along the tunnel, any feelings of discomfort are quickly replaced by the sheer curiosity of seeing what lies ahead.
It turns!
It must have been this same overwhelming curiosity that drove the early explorers deep into the cave, although they certainly never made it as far as this passage. The 1830s were a time when much of the world had been explored. Caves, however, were still the realm of the great unknown, and captured the public's imagination. When this cave was being explored in the 1830s, some even believed that the Earth was hollow and inhabitable within, with entrances at the North and South Poles. Such a concept became a part of American culture at the time, and was even featured in a novel by Edgar Allan Poe called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. Our understanding of the subterranean world has vastly improved since that time. But then, as now, caves still hold a special place in the human collective imagination.
Little more, little more, a little more. Keep coming, keep coming.
Oh, there we are. It's beautiful. It twists and turns in the water. It makes like a 90-degree right turn. And when I was coming back out, it looked like the tunnel was filled all the way to the ceiling with water. I'm like, oh boy. It didn't rain and it like filled, and I'm like, oh no, I just have to turn this way.
We head back to where we had first descended into the cave.
That was the dry side.
So in some point in Earth's history, this area would have been a shallow sea where you would have like huge populations of crinoids and other organisms that would create calcium carbonate. They would fixate carbon from the air into their structure and create calcium carbonate, and it would just over the eons would just build up and build up and build up and build up.
Most of the caves in this area were formed when the last glaciers retreated and melted away, and the water from the glaciers is a lot of what formed the caves. Because if they are much older, the weight of the glaciers would have cracked the ceiling and collapsed all the caves. You know, there was 1 mile of ice on top of this. So if there was this cave, it would have been destroyed by the glacier. So the glaciers kind of gouge and wipe away the soft limestones on the top. But then as they're melting, their water forms caves from this. Now it's still slowly eroding. There's still water running at the deeper levels of the cave, but much, much less compared to, the end of the last ice age. The limestone beneath this is what eroded, dissolved away from water, giving space, and then this just collapsed down into the space. So what we're standing on below us was a big cave passage with water going through it.
This room, called the Rotunda, was once beautifully decorated with stalactites. During the early explorations, most of the formations were removed and sold to museums and private collectors. The room is now void of any decoration.
Tens of thousands of years ago, Earth was very different as compared to today, and 10,000 years in the future is going to be very different from what we see it today. But down here, as long as there's no other ice ages or mountain building events, then it should stay the same. It's strange that there's history down below the surface that everyone always looks at stuff on the surface, but you're going back in time as you go deeper.
In 1987, the preserve was donated by James Gage to the National Speleological Foundation and was then deeded to the National Speleological Society in 1996.
We're all set. We did our explorations, and we're on our way out, the last climb.
The cave remains today a wonderful experience for amateur and expert cavers alike, and will continue to inspire future generations with the same sense of wonder and curiosity that the original discoverers must have felt almost 2 centuries ago.